You wake up at 3 a.m. with your jaw on fire. Except it's not 3 a.m., it's 40,000 years ago, and the pain feels exactly the same. No dentist's office, no Novocaine, no ibuprofen, just knock, the fire, and one screaming tooth. Lying flat is exactly why it's worse at night. Blood pools toward your head, and pressure builds. That's true whether you're on a memory foam mattress or flat on cold cave stone. This story stretches across 5 real archaeological sites in tens of thousands of years. So let's start with the pain itself. This might be the oldest kind of pain a human has ever tried to escape. And if an infection like this one had won back then, it wouldn't just have hurt, it could have ended a bloodline. Yours, maybe. And here's the part that flips everything you think you know. Cavities aren't a modern problem. They're not even a farming problem. Ice Age hunter-gatherers already had rotten teeth. Tonight, you're going to see exactly how humans survived a toothache before dentists ever existed. And the answer is stranger, more painful, and more human than you'd ever guess. Nock presses his palm against his jaw. The throb comes in waves, worse with every hour. There's no bottle of pills in his world. No emergency dentist to call at dawn. Just Ash the wolf pup, pressed close, sensing something in Nock is wrong. A toothache 40,000 years ago wasn't a minor inconvenience. It was a real physical threat. Even without much sugar, stone-ground food was full of grit, and grit wears teeth down to the nerve. An infected tooth could swell a jaw shut, spread into the blood, and end a life. Then versus you today, you swallow a pill and forget the pain by lunchtime. Here's the wild part almost nobody expects. This problem is way older than farming itself. In 2014, archaeologist Louise Humphrey examined 52 skeletons pulled from a cave in Morocco. The site is called Taforalt, and these people lived roughly 15,000 years ago. Archaeologists call this culture the Ibero-Maurutians, among the very last hunter-gatherer societies of North Africa. More than half of their teeth, 51%, were rotted through with cavities. These weren't farmers eating bread. They were hunter-gatherers thousands of years before a single crop. You've probably heard sugar or bread gets the blame for this. Taforalt says the story starts earlier. Their crime was acorns, pine nuts, and snails ground up and slow-boiled into a sugary paste. Raw acorns are bitter and toxic, so they spent hours leaching out the tannins in running water. That sticky paste clung to their teeth for hours, feeding the same bacteria your soda does. All that careful work just to end up with a starchy paste that rotted their teeth anyway. So the toothache you're picturing right now, humans have been feeling it since the Ice Age. This isn't just an Ice Age story. In 2017, researcher Alyssa Crittenden studied a hunter-gatherer group alive today. The Hadza of Tanzania still hunt and gather much of their food, the way Nock's people once did. 36% of them still had a cavity, and the biggest reason for the men was wild honey. Even Ash's favorite treat, honey, has apparently been ruining teeth since long before either of them existed. But the real surprise isn't that ancient humans got cavities. It's what some of them did about it. In 2017, scientist Laura Weirich studied hardened dental plaque from a Neanderthal skeleton in Spain. The site was called El Sidron, and this Neanderthal's jaw was hiding something remarkable. His tooth had a dental abscess, the exact kind of infection that can turn deadly. But trapped in the hardened plaque on his teeth were traces of exactly what he'd been chewing. Finding readable DNA inside 48,000-year-old plaque like this is astonishingly rare, which made the discovery even bigger. He'd been chewing on poplar bark, the natural plant source of salicylic acid. That's the exact compound your aspirin is made from, just picked straight off a tree. And hidden in that same plaque, penicillium, the very mold that gives us penicillin. A Neanderthal in pain had found his own aspirin and his own antibiotic by trial alone. He didn't understand the chemistry. He only knew which plant made the throbbing finally stop. Then versus you today. He chewed bark in a cave. You twist off a childproof cap. But not every toothache could be talked away with bark and mold alone. Sometimes the rot went in deep enough that no plant on earth could reach it. In a rock shelter in Italy called Riparoffredian, someone made a much harder choice. In 2015, researcher Stefano Benazzi examined a 13,000-year-old front tooth and found something chilling. The marks were too regular and too deliberate to be simple wear, which is how researchers knew this was intentional. Deep inside the cavity were tiny scratch marks, spiraling around in a twisting pattern. Someone had held a sharp flint point and scraped the infected pulp straight out by hand. No numbing, no restraints, just steady hands, a flint point, and someone who trusted them completely. Afterward, they packed the hollowed-out tooth with bitumen, a sticky black tar, to seal it shut. Bitumen wasn't a special dental material. It was the same sticky tar they used to glue stone blades onto handles. Right now, as far as anyone has found, that is the oldest known dental filling on Earth. Then versus you today, your dentist has laughing gas. Their ancestors had someone holding them still. Quick question before we go further. Would you have let someone do that to you? Drop a tooth in the comments if just picturing that made your own jaw ache. Back to the story, because the scraping and the tar were only the beginning of what people tried next. 9,000 years later, in a village called Mehrgarh, in what's now Pakistan, dentistry got stranger. In 2006, anthropologist Alessandro Coppa studied 11 drilled molars from 9 people buried there. Someone had used a flint-tip drill, the very same tool used to bore holes through stone beads. Now, picture that exact tool, spinning fast enough to bore straight through tooth enamel instead. Unlike the scraping in Italy, this drill went straight into a living tooth with zero numbing at all. Just imagine the sound alone. The same were used for jewelry, now aimed straight at your mouth. And here's the part that's actually hopeful. Some of those teeth were drilled more than once. Smooth, worn edges on the holes show these people kept chewing normally for years afterward. That means the first drilling worked well enough that the same patient came back for more. Researchers even recreated the technique. A flint-tip drill can bore a hole in about 1 minute. Then versus you today, you dread the sound of a dentist's drill. They chose it twice. 6,500 years ago, in what's now Slovenia, someone tried a gentler fix. In 2012, researcher Federico Bernardini examined a cracked canine tooth from that very era. Packed into the crack was beeswax, soft and sealing, almost exactly like a filling today. Unlike scraping or drilling, this one probably didn't hurt going in, just careful fingers, warm wax, and patience. For years, this was called the oldest filling ever found, before Riparoffredian pushed the record back further. Either way, humans have been quietly patching their own teeth for thousands of years running. Here's the part that makes all of this less funny and a lot more frightening. Before antibiotics existed, an abscess tooth wasn't just painful. It was one of the deadliest infections around. Even without infection, the pain alone could stop a person from eating, and starvation was its own kind of danger. The swelling could spread down the throat and cut off breathing completely, with almost no warning. For most of recorded history afterward, dental infections like this one kept killing people, kings included. For most of the centuries in between, the only real treatment left was simply pulling the tooth out. So every scrape, every drill, every leaf chewed by firelight was someone fighting for their life. Not vanity, survival. Then versus you today. A toothache sends you to a calendar app to book next Tuesday. In a group this small, losing even one person to something as ordinary as a toothache mattered enormously. Back then, a toothache could send an entire tribe into a quiet, watchful kind of fear. Ash presses close against knock by the fire, the only comfort available on a night like this. No pain relief works instantly here. So the people around him simply stay close until it passes. That's the part no bitumen filling or drilled tooth can show you. Someone staying awake so you're not alone. By morning, the worst of it has passed, not because it was cured, but because he wasn't facing it alone. So here's the real reframe. The ache in your jaw tonight connects you to every human who ever lived. Neanderthals felt it. Ice Age foragers felt it. Farmers felt it. And tonight you feel it too. The chemistry finally got names. Aspirin got a label. Penicillin got a name. Novocaine arrived in 1905. Every single fix was crude by today's standards, and every single one still worked well enough to matter. But the instinct underneath all of it, find something, anything to make the pain stop, never changed. Here's the strangest twist of all. The World Health Organization says untreated tooth decay is still the single most common health condition on Earth. Close to 3.7 billion people are affected by some kind of oral disease right now in this very moment. And access to care still isn't equal. Many people today have no more real treatment options than Knock did. Here's one more number worth sitting with. Today, 72% of adults still fear the dentist. So next time a dentist reaches for that little metal pick, remember, you're getting off easy. Knock didn't have Novocaine. He had bark, tar, a flint blade, and people who simply stayed. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough to get him through the night. Same human, different world. If you've ever dreaded the dentist chair, you already understand exactly what Knock felt that night. Subscribe for the next true story of how ancient humans actually survive being human. And now, you know exactly why that little ache in your jaw has never really been alone.